To request. Perfect. Great. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It is such a pleasure to welcome you to Alberta-wide nursing rounds. My name is Lindsay Komar, and I will be your moderator for today's Zoom session. We're very excited to kick off our 2026 rounds, which will now take place on the third Thursday of every month at noon. So please note that we're no longer meeting on Tuesday evenings. Thanks, everyone, for being here, and we'll get started. So just give you a little bit of background, Alberta-wide nursing rounds builds on the foundation of our long-standing citywide nursing rounds, an initiative that has connected nurses, students, educators, and researchers here in Edmonton for a few years now. And we're now expanding our reach. By going province-wide, we're creating a space for nurses from all corners of Alberta, urban, rural, and remote, to share knowledge, raise questions, and build community. This is about amplifying the voices of nurses and ensuring research and practice truly inform one another. These rounds are more than just about sharing findings. They're about tackling real world issues that we are facing in clinical practice and celebrating the impact of nursing scholarship. So before we begin our session, I would like to take a moment for a land acknowledgement. The Faculty of Nursing at the University of Alberta is located on Treaty 6 territory, a traditional gathering place for diverse Indigenous peoples, including the Cree, Blackfoot, Métis, Nakota Sioux, Iroquois, Dene, Ojibwe, Saulteaux, and Anishinaabe, Inuit, and many others whose histories, languages, and cultures continue to enrich our vibrant community. We recognize the First Peoples of this land, and we commit to working together toward reconciliation and equitable health outcomes for Indigenous communities. So just a quick housekeeping item before we begin. This session is being recorded and will be available on our website. Still not totally sure how that's working. Heather will be able to direct you. If you need to email someone, you can please email Heather Good. We're going to hear from 4 presenters today: Dr. Salima Meherali, Yared Aynalem, and Pacifique, and Amber Hussain. The broad topic for today's presentations is a celebration for International Week. So we're very excited to have you all here to see this. So I'm going to begin by introducing Dr. Salima Meherali. She is an associate professor and associate dean international in the Faculty of Nursing at the University of Alberta. Salima's research focuses on migration and global maternal, child, and adolescent health. As a principal investigator, she leads community-based participatory action research, and these are projects that engage adolescents and youth in sexual and reproductive health rights and decision-making. So I'm going to hand it over to you, to Salima, to get started.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. I will share my presentation. Can you see my presentation slides? Thank you so much. Thank you, Lindsay, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for inviting us to share our international initiatives and research projects as part of International Week celebration. So as Lindsay has already mentioned, that my program of research focuses on reproductive, maternal, child, and adolescent health, particularly with immigrant adolescents in Canada and in the global context. Today, I will be sharing youth engagement strategy that we use to transform adolescent sexual and reproductive health in Pakistan. We are conducting this project in collaboration with Hussain University in Pakistan, and this project is funded by CIHR. First, I would like to acknowledge that University of Alberta is located on Treaty 6 territory and respect the histories, languages, and culture of First Nation, Métis, Inuit, and all First People of Canada. Adolescence is an essential stage of growth and development, and that sets the foundation for all the consecutive stages of life. For adolescents to grow healthy and develop successfully, they require access to information about their health and well-being, and this includes comprehensive sexual and reproductive health education. Globally, many people, young people, they are sexually active without access to quality sexual and reproductive health information and services. And especially in low and middle income countries context like Pakistan, where young people, they face significant SRH barriers. In Pakistan, 23% of the population is between the ages of 10 to 19 years, and many adolescents face major SRH challenges. This include early marriages, unplanned pregnancies, violence, gender discrimination, and low contraceptive use due to restrictive sociocultural norms. that limit the access to adolescent-friendly sexual and reproductive health services and a lack of comprehensive sexuality education. Despite ongoing efforts by government and implementing organizations to improve the uptake of SRH services in Pakistan, many adolescents, particularly in remote rural areas, they still lack access to adequate information, resources, and services. Moreover, there are very few programs that actively engage adolescents in designing and implementation of SRH and family planning initiatives that limits the quality and responsiveness of these programs and policies. The evidence base suggests that meaningful youth engagement could significantly enhance SRH-related programs and advocacy issues. It change community attitudes towards youth SRH, reduce stigma, and increase awareness by policymakers and health providers. This presentation highlights the youth engagement process, which include the development of youth champions and advisory group in identifying the sexual and reproductive health and right needs of adolescents in a rural community in Pakistan. The overarching goal of this project is to better understand adolescents' information, educational support, and service access needs related to SRH and family planning, to engage adolescents in the co-design of SRH and family planning advocacy toolkit, and to evaluate the toolkit's usability and usefulness in improving the SRH of adolescents in Pakistan. In this project, we use participatory action research framework, which is grounded in the principle that those most affected by research should lead in framing the questions, design methods, and guiding analysis. The project follows 3 key steps. In the first step, adolescents and youth are actively engaged to identify challenges and barriers related to SRH in their communities. In the second step, we are conducting a priority setting partnership exercise using the James Lind Alliance model to co-identify priority sexual and reproductive health and right topics with youth input. In the third step, building on the findings from youth advisors and the priority setting exercise, we will develop SRH and family planning advocacy toolkit in local and national languages. This toolkit represents a paradigm shift from a risk-based approach to one that views adolescent sexuality as a positive and normative stage of development. And finally, the toolkit will be evaluated for usability, acceptability, and effectiveness. In this presentation, I will only focus on the first step, that is youth engagement process in this project. So in this project, youth age between 15 to 24 years from rural Sindh communities in Pakistan were actively engaged through a participatory process with a purpose to co-design SRH and family planning advocacy toolkit to ensure that their needs and perspectives are central to this toolkit. With the support of lady health workers, we identified and recruited motivated youth to participate and form youth champions and advisory groups. To ensure meaningful engagement, these youth champions receive training in SRH, social determinants of health, research methods, and ethics. Then these trained advisors have led SRH sessions with adolescents aged 10 to 19 years in their communities. These sessions cover topics such as puberty, menstruation, menstrual hygiene, early marriage and pregnancy, gender-based violence, decision-making, education, empowerment, and family planning, which is mainly helping us to understand adolescents' knowledge and information needs. Over the course of a year with 15 advisory members, sustaining these sessions, new priorities were also emerged, including mental health, disability inclusion, SRH education in humanitarian context, sexual abuse prevention, and support for marginalized groups such as LGBTQ youth, adolescents with disabilities, and gender-based violence survivors. These insights will guide us the development of a comprehensive and inclusive SRH toolkit that is responsive to the diverse needs of adolescents. Some of the challenges that emerged when youth champions invited peers from their communities to participate in the sessions. Advisors often struggle to obtain parental permission, particularly due to concern about sensitive topics and girls' participation. So to address these barriers, parents were actively involved in these sessions and they informed about the benefits of participation. The main positive aspect of youth champions engagement is that these youth champions are from the same communities. That is mainly facilitated trust and engagement and allowing the advisors to effectively expand the outreach. With their support, the research team was able to collect rich, relevant information on adolescent SRH needs, Without the involvement of these community-based champions, recruiting adolescent participants for the project would have been extremely challenging for us. Moving forward, these youth champions emphasize the need for ongoing guidance, training, and capacity building workshops to sustain their progress. They also committed to continue engagement, advocating for the improvement of SRH programming in their communities. Now I will play a short video that we have created with our youth champions to showcase their role, engagement, and journey in this project.
Salima, we can't hear it. Do you need to unmute it?
Sorry.
Let's see. It
Oh,
looks like it's there.
Can you hear?
And you might just have to share your audio. So like, if you're sharing your screen, who's sharing screen right now?
I am sharing this.
You're sharing. So you might have to like, if we want to do this, you might have to stop share, and then when you reshare your screen, just say click share audio. I think that should work. I'm sorry.
Oh no, no problem.
Thanks for.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
In the heart of Pakistan's Sindh region, we began working with a group of young individuals who are taking the lead in driving social change. They are breaking barriers and challenging norms to promote sexual and reproductive health within their communities.
Adolescents in low and middle income countries like Pakistan face immense barriers when it comes to sexual and reproductive health. In communities where these topics are still taboo, they are left in the dark, denied the basic knowledge about their own bodies and rights.
With the aim to advance sexual and reproductive health among adolescents in this rural region, our team partnered with youths within the community who would lead the change and become sexual and reproductive health rights advocates. These youth champions underwent extensive training on topics such as puberty, contraception, STIs, gender-based violence, research methods, and how to approach these conversations. After receiving training, they learned to navigate sensitive conversations with respect for cultural values and were tasked with inviting youth in their neighborhoods to participate in awareness sessions.
In Pakistan, it's usually difficult for adolescent and youth people, young people, to discuss about reproductive health with their communities or even in some cases with their parents. So in this context, we have devised a platform, community space in rural communities where these young people, adolescent boys and girls, utilize these spaces in a community sensitive way.
Youth advisors faced resistance at many points: misinformation, stigma, and deep-rooted cultural taboos. Parents were worried about what their children would be taught in such sessions. Community leaders were skeptical, seeing these sessions as a challenge to traditional values.
As youth advisors, we encountered significant fear and resistance when addressing sexual and reproductive health in our communities. It was seen as something taboo, especially in rural Pakistan, where traditions are strong and change is often met with hesitation. We listen to the concerns of our elders, community members, and peers and cousins, relatives related to sexual and reproductive health issues among adolescents. We also changed our ways of educating young people on sexual and reproductive health issues.
These youth champions gained community trust. They empowered their peers to take control of their sexual and reproductive health. They maximized the participation at community level and dispelled misconceptions through awareness sessions.
In our sessions, we emphasize gender equity and empowerment, encouraging boys and girls to play their part in building a society. Our aim is to equip them with the knowledge to make informed decisions and understand their rights.
As trust grew, so did participation. New sessions were held, reaching more and more young people. The number of youth champions expanded from 6 to 15, each one more committed than the last. With each session, the ripple effect grew stronger. More adolescents, more parents, more community leaders began to see the value of these conversations. They aren't just champions, they are trailblazers, building bridges between generations and bringing a new narrative of health and empowerment to their communities. The movement was no longer just a project. This is what happens when young people take the lead, when they are given a voice, a platform, and the right support. Imagine what more they can do. Together, let's build a healthier, more empowered future for all.
So over the course of the project, our youth advisor, as you have seen, have demonstrated remarkable commitment and resilience, overcoming cultural and social barriers through peer counseling, outreach, and trust building. Their efforts fostered open dialogue on sensitive sexual and reproductive health and rights topics among adolescents, their parents, teachers, and community leaders, helping to break taboos and reduce misinformation. So within just 1 year, these youth advisors have contributed to delaying 5 child marriages and supported 10 to 15 girls aged 14 to 18 years in discussion with their parents about their continuing their education. The initiative also improved adolescents' knowledge and puberty related to physical and emotional changes. It encouraged better hygiene practices and enhanced overall awareness of reproductive health. Communities increasingly recognize that early marriage and teenage pregnancy contribute to school dropout and limit adolescents' future opportunities. Adolescents themselves have expressed the need for a stronger support system and mentorship to help them stay in school and achieve their aspirations. So overall, this experience highlights the transformative impact of youth-led community-based SRH interventions in promoting SRH education and delaying early marriages. Based on the insights we have gathered from these sessions conducted by these youth champions with young people in the community, we are now prioritizing SRH topics, and we will develop story-based toolkits in the local languages, which will serve as a guided resource for young people to provide accurate SRH information to adolescents, youth, their parents, and other community members. Thank you so much. These are our youth champions, and this is the picture which we have taken my last visit with them during my visit to Pakistan. So thank you so much for listening, and I'm open for the discussion.
Thanks so much, Salima. That was fabulous. I love that video. And your research program is so exciting. I love it. So up next is Yared. Yared, we're your old friends. Remember we did that award together? It's nice to see you. So Yared is a fourth-year PhD candidate in nursing at the University of Alberta and an assistant professor at the, I'm going to say this incorrectly, so you can correct me, Debre Berhan University. He holds an MSc in nursing from Addis Ababa University, and he's an award-winning researcher in maternal, child, adolescent, and reproductive health with a primary focus on preconception care in Ethiopia and other low and middle income countries. Very, very cool. So Yared, I think we are playing a recorded video, and I think somebody else is going to share that, but we're so glad you're here. So
Yes.
we're going to play your recording right away.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yared, and I'm a fourth-year PhD candidate in the Faculty of Nursing. Today, I will share the finding from my doctoral research conducted in Ethiopia, which is titled From the Individual Perspective to Systemic Reality, the Social, Culture, and the Health System Determinants of Preconception Care. So I would like to briefly share my positionality. I'm an assistant professor in Ethiopia with experience in clinical practice, teaching community service and that of research. So my academic work began with the master's thesis on the neonatal mortality, which revealed high preventable death rate and leads to further study, which includes the meta-analysis highlighting the importance of preconception risk factors. So to build on this work, I moved to Canada for my PhD to strengthen my research skill and that of broaden my perspective. So during this time, I conducted several research, including the concept analysis on the evolving natures of preconception care, which clearly showed that preconception care is a very diffuse and dynamic concept. So my work has also been recognized through awards such as the Vinil Canada and that of the Kila Scholarship. Experience working in the resource limiter setting continues to shape my commitment and to improve maternal and child health, and which drives my focus on the knowledge, attitude, and practice related to preconception care, within an emphasis on rigor and that of impact. When we see why preconception care matters at this stage, because it is a critical preventive strategy that addresses biomedical, behavioral, and that of social risk factors before pregnancy. By intervening earlier, it improves maternal, newborn, and paternal, and even the intergenerational health outcome, and even reduce reliance on the care that begins only during the antenatal care service. This approach shifts reproductive health towards prevention and risk reduction, and even it positions healthcare workers, including nursing, as central to early screening, health promotion, and that of continuity of care across the reproductive life course stages. So now I'm presenting the burdens of maternal and neonatal mortality. So globally, almost 800 maternal deaths occur daily, with 95% in low and middle income countries, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, where 1 in 16 women die during the childbirth. The maternal death rate in low and middle income countries is also high as compared with the high income countries, and even the neonatal death also accounts for 47% of under 5 mortality, with 80% in sub-Saharan Africa being preventable. When we come to Ethiopia, the maternal mortality rate is also 400 TOL per 100,000, and that of the neonatal mortality rate is 48 per 1,000. And some of the factors that contributed for this one is the socioeconomic challenges and even inadequate healthcare structure, including the infrastructure and that of shortages of trained workers are a contributing factor for this morbidity and mortality rates. Therefore, preconception care is critical for preventing this issue. So that Ethiopia is a timely setting with first national preconception care guideline launched in 2024. But despite this policy, preconception care remains largely absent from the routine service, and which creates a gap between the policy and that of the practice. At the same time, the health sector transformation plan aims to reduce maternal and neonatal mortality rate by 2026, positioning preconception care integration as a key strategy and an opportunity for the nursing lead system action. However, there is limited research has explored this issue in an integrated way, particularly how the social and that of the health system factors shape preconception care knowledge, attitude, and practice, and the roles of men in reproductive decision making, and even the gaps in healthcare workers' practice and that of the contributions of stakeholder engagement. So that this study explores preconception care knowledge, attitude, and practice among reproductive age individuals, healthcare workers, and that of policymakers, and is guided by two research questions. The first one is what can be learned about the preconception care knowledge, attitude, and practice, and how do the social, cultural, and that of health system factors shape the preconception care. To address this gap, I used a multi-phase study. The study began with a scoping review to map the existing evidence on preconception care knowledge and attitude in low and middle-income countries, and followed by an interpretive descriptive qualitative study involving the reproductive age individual, healthcare workers, and that of policymakers, including managers, and that of other stakeholders. When we come to the qualitative method aspect, I conducted two interlinked interpretive descriptive qualitative studies in Addis Ababa. One involved 18 reproductive age individuals, including men and women, and that of the second includes 36 healthcare workers, managers, and other policymakers and other stakeholders. And data where came from the interview, the focus group discussion, observation, and that of policy document review. When presenting the finding, I first draw on a scoping review of 68 studies conducted in low and middle-income countries, the majority of which used quantitative design. And most of this literature has been published within the last 5 years. As shown in the figure, the study participants were also predominantly women of reproductive age individual, and that of the key gaps in this evidence includes lack of qualitative research, limited inclusions of men and that of other stakeholders, and even insufficient attention to socio-cultural factors, and few studies examine the knowledge, attitude, practice, and related to this preconception care practice. When we come to the qualitative study, the finding revealed that 5 interconnected themes are there. So in this study, preconception care is valued but not embedded in the routine service. Particularly, it remains structurally absent and depending on the individual efforts. So as a result of this, access is inconsistent and largely very invisible. So I will present the major finding in the next consecutive slides. So one of the major finding was on knowledge and access. So the knowledge of preconception care in this study was fragmented and often confused with antenatal care, and most of the participants learned about preconception care only after complication, like for example after pregnancy loss or infertility, and access is strongly shaped by the social norms, including the marriage act as the gatekeeper, while stigma and that of a fear of judgment limits access particularly for youth and unmarried women. So when we come to the social and that of cultural determinants, access to preconception care was shaped by the marriage, stigma, faith, and that of the gender norms. And unmarried women were often excluded from this service, and that of men expressed his interest and their interest, but field service were not designed for them, and they mainly participated in supporting their partners. They don't feel that the service are designed for themselves. So preconception care is also negotiated socially and not accessed as a right. This third theme highlights how responsibility for preconception care is gendered. So women carries most of the physical and that of the emotional work of preparation, while men are recognized as key decision makers but are rarely engaged as the client. At the same time, service remains largely women-centered and confined to the clinical setting, reinforcing unequal responsibility and limiting the meaningful men engagement and male involvement in preconception care practice. So when we come to the practical reality, preconception care is not delivered as a standalone service, but it is improvised within the family planning post-abortion care and that of chronic care setting, but there is no any separate room for which is designed for this service. Additionally, pharmacies and that of digital platforms function as parallel pathway for this service, or they offering privacy and that of access, but often without any adequate counseling or safety guidance. This study also highlighted systemic neglect as a major barriers, including the absence of indicators, supervision, supply, and that of adequate staffing. Preconception care remains off the agenda, and because it is neither reported nor monitored, as the finding revealed. So integrating preconception care into the health information system and continuing professional development and that of digital platforms was consistently identified as a key steps to make this service more visible, accountable, and that of sustainable. So this finding highlights important implication for healthcare, including for nursing practice and that of the health system. So preconception care should be integrated into the routine family planning and chronic care service, and also main needs to be engaged not only as a supporter but as a client whose health influences reproductive health outcomes. Nursing practice should also be used relational, gender responsive approach and ensure confidentiality and stigma-free access, especially for youth and unmarried women. At the system level, preconception care should be embedded in the health information system to improve visibility and that of accountability, and investment in nursing training, not only nursing but also other healthcare workers training, supportive supervision, and digital tools is very essential, along with a stronger linkage between health extension workers, facilities, and that of community workers. When we come to the Faculty of Nursing support, as an international student, the faculty has supported this work through advanced qualitative training, research funding, and strong mentorship in the global maternal health and institutional backing for ethically complex international research. So this support enabled me to translate local Ethiopian evidence into the global relevant nursing insights. In summary, preconception care starts late, often after a complication, and even the practice and knowledge of this preconception care is extremely fragmented. Even if it is valued, it is extremely invisible in the systemic aspect, and access is also shaped by stigma and gender, and also men are also under engaged, so that the system should be able to integrate this as an essential components of the reproductive health service. These are some of the references that I used during my presentation. Finally, I extend my sincere gratitude to my supervisor and supervisory committee. I am also grateful to my funding agency, including the Vineyard Climate, the Alberta government, the University of Alberta, and the Faculty of Nursing for their generous support. Thank you as well for the conference organizer committee and all the attendees for your time and engagement. If you have any question, please feel free to welcome.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Yared. That was so good. Up next, we have Pacifique. She's a registered nurse and a PhD candidate in nursing at the Faculty of Nursing at the University of Alberta, with a Master of Science in Nursing. And her research mainly focuses on depression among adolescents living with HIV, health risks faced by children born to sex workers, and family planning among women living with mental disorders and epilepsy. Her doctoral work examines mental health challenges and access to mental health services among adolescents living with HIV in Rwanda. And I'm not sure if you're presenting live or a pre-recorded.
I'm presenting.
Perfect, great. Go ahead and share your screen and get going.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
We can see it, but maybe you could put it in presentation mode.
Okay, thank you. As you said, I'm Pacifique Mukangabire. I'm a PhD candidate, and my topic is on HIV care access and mental health among adolescents living with HIV, evidence from West Africa and insight from Rwanda. The University of Alberta acknowledged that we are located on Treaty 6 territory and respected the history, language, and culture of First Nation, Métis, Inuit, and the All First People of Canada. This is the background of my study. 39.9 million people were living with HIV in 2023, and among them, 26 million were living in African countries. 1.7 million adolescents were living with HIV in 2023, and among them, 90% were in African countries. AIDS-related death decreased by 64% across all age, but it only decreased by 10% in adolescent, and the HIV is still the second leading cause of death among adolescents. So adolescents were found to be twice likely to not adhere to antiretroviral treatment, and mental health challenges have been found to be associated to that, adherence to antiretroviral treatment. So why this matter? Despite strong global initiative, adolescents have not been the same mortality decrease, and the gaps persist in retention and the viral suppression among adolescents. In this study was conducted in two phases. One was a scoping review that identified factors that hinder or support adolescent access to services. The second phase identify mental health challenges in adolescents living with HIV and also the access to mental health services. For this mental health, why? Because those adolescents are repeatedly linked to poor adherence and disengagement. And as I have said, the mental health challenges were found to increase the risk of treatment interruption. And why the access to mental health services matter? When screening and the referral are inconsistent and services are limited, distress goes initiated and reduce motivation and follow-up through with antiretroviral treatment and visit. So integrating routine screening, mental health routine screening, and the feasible psychological support with HIV care will help those adolescents to adhere to the treatment. So those are the two phases, the scoping review and the interpretive description with adolescent living with HIV. And also I interviews the healthcare providers and the policymakers working in HIV. In scoping review, those I found, the 22 studies were eligible to be included in the scoping review across 7 African countries. And This scoping review synthesizes the narrative mapping of barriers and facilitators to access to HIV care among adolescents living with HIV. So the findings from the scoping review at barriers, some barriers that were found are stigma and discrimination at the community and the clinical level, and there was also economic hardship like transport, food insecurity, and this school cost. There was also, as a barrier, health system limitation, distance to clinics, wait time, privacy, and the clinical hours, which were the same as the school hours. There was also psychological challenges that they are among them the treatment fatigue, as they have to take treatment every day, distress, and the disclosure difficulty. As the facilitators, we identify family and the peer support, youth-friendly and the community-based model of care, supportive and the non-judgmental healthcare providers, and the policy-level advocacy for adolescent responsive services. For the second phase of my study, there are the two objectives: to identify mental health challenges among those adolescents, and also to assess the access to mental health services. So in mental health challenges, identify severe sadness, depression, and the emotional distress often emerging after diagnosis, disclosure, and was shaped by rejection. I also identified silence, withdrawal, and isolation, anger, self-blame, and strained family relationship, as many of those adolescents were born with HIV. When they found out they have HIV, that sometimes impacted the relationship they have with the parents, as they blame them as the cause of their disease. There was also stigma at school and community. There was a hopelessness that escalated to risk coping, like alcohol, drug, and the risky sex, and in severe cases, they were suicidal and tough and the attempt. Those mental health challenges directly distribute antiretroviral adherence and the appointment attendance. For the accessibility to mental health services, I identified the low awareness, demand creation, as many adolescents didn't know that mental health support exists or where to find it. Service capacity gaps, few trained staff, and limited time for counseling. Screening exists in some hospitals, but is periodic, once in 6 months to year, and the tools emphasize on screening of depression and the anxiety. The affordability also in findings is a problem, as the HIV care is free, but mental health services are not, so they have to pay when they need mental health services. So now I'm going to say about the support I received from the Faculty of Nursing as an international student. So I received this supervisory mentorship from proposal development to implementation, methodological guidance for scoping, review, and the interpretive description, and the ethical application process, scholarly writing and the publishing process, and also I received the academic and the psychological support, regular check-in and encouragement, and the supportive graduate community that strengthen resilience during demanding phase. So what I learned the advanced research skills, systematic searching, evidence synthesis. Also, I learned more about qualitative research and ethical research practice, academic writing and communication, knowledge translation and collaboration. The next step is to publish my study findings in peer-reviewed scholarly journal, co-develop the recommendation with clinics and policymakers, and knowledge translation feedback to participants, and conference presentation. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Pacifique. That was great. So last but not least, we have Amber. Amber is a PhD candidate in nursing at the University of Alberta. Her scholarly contributions span peer-reviewed publications and presentations at national and international conferences, and she's been awarded multiple national and international scholarships. Amber brings extensive experience across clinical practice, nursing education, leadership, and research. And her research interests include adolescent health, mental health, public health, and maternal and child health. She's passionate about advancing healthcare through evidence-informed research and knowledge translation. So go ahead, Amber.
I'm having problems hearing anything. Is anybody else hearing anything?
Yes,
Not here.
but I can see that the audio is off. Down in the right-hand corner.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, right where you were. Go back and there's on the left-hand side of those little icons. Just click that. Well, two more over.
Two more over. Three
Yeah.
more over, right? Yeah.
Oh,
Three more.
okay.
We can find my boss.
Yeah,
Often
okay.
in ways
Right.
they never
We'll start again.
So as I begin my academic.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, and thank you for being here today. My name is Amber Hussain, and I'm PhD candidate at Faculty of Nursing, University of Alberta. Today I'll be speaking about a topic that is really close to my heart, which is emotional journeys of adolescent mothers in Pakistan, their struggles, strengths, and hopes. A little bit background about me. I was born and raised in Pakistan, and my connection to this topic is deeply personal. So growing up, I witnessed many hardships faced by young girls, especially in rural areas when it comes to health, education, and autonomy. And one issue that really stood out to me was early marriage and motherhood, which shaped the lives of these girls, often in ways they never got to choose. So as I began my academic journey in maternal and child health, I felt the need to explore the lived experiences of adolescent mothers, girls who became pregnant and gave birth. So my aim was to listen to understand, and to amplify their voices. So through this research, I hope to bring attention to the hidden emotional journeys these girls go through and how, despite their youth, they show immense strength and resilience. Now, why this topic is really important. So if you look into this, adolescent motherhood is a global concern. And each year, more than 21 million adolescent girls in low and middle income countries become pregnant. And about 12 million of those pregnancies result in live births. And in Pakistan, the adolescent birth rate is 42 per thousand girls aged between 15 to 19 years. And it's even higher in rural areas like Meherali, where the study was conducted. But beyond the statistics are real young lives, which is shaped by inequalities and cultural expectations. Early motherhood in these areas or these settings affects their education, their autonomy, their mental health, and can trap families in intergenerational cycles of poverty. So the aim of my research was to explore the emotional experiences of adolescent mothers, not just what they do, but how they feel, what fears or even joys shape their everyday lives as young mothers. Secondly, I wanted to understand barriers they faced and just as importantly, the support systems they rely on to cope and to survive. So I used a qualitative focused ethnography approach, which allowed me to explore each participant's unique emotional journey. I interviewed adolescent mothers between the ages of 15 and 19 when they were pregnant, and all were from rural Matiari. Each had an interview. Each interview was done in their local language, and later it was translated and transcribed. Through thematic analysis, I identified core themes that emerged consistently from their narratives. Despite the diversity of individual stories, 5 main themes consistently emerged. The first theme that emerged was how early motherhood transformed the identity of these girls. And many of these talked about the clear loss of girlhood, a sense that their childhood has ended the moment they became married or became mother. So motherhood became their new identity. They no longer saw themselves as students, as sisters or daughters, but simply as mothers. But it was not just about losing some things. These girls were also redefining their self-worth in different ways. While many struggled with self-doubt and questioned whether they were doing a good job, some began to see strength in what they were doing, for example, raising a child. But still their bodies told a parallel story. Many expressed anxiety over how they looked. They described their young faces already marked by fatigue. So this connection between body, beauty, and fatigue came up often. So while their identity was shifting, the emotional struggles were also so deep. A major part of their hardships were unseen labor. Many girls shared how their day began and did not end until night. But because this labor happened inside the house, it was even invisible, even to those around them. So while some girls received emotional support from their mothers or close friends or from their relatives, many talked about that they were left alone with their responsibilities. And of course, these layers of stress affected their mental health. So these girls reported feeling confused, ashamed, and deeply afraid of failing their child, afraid of medical complication, and fear of not being taken seriously. As these girls were navigating motherhood, they were also navigating power structures they had no control over. Most of them lived in environments where decision-making hierarchies were firmly in place. Even as mothers, they often had no say in their decisions about their own children. Some shared that even basic parenting choices were overridden by their elders. And these power structures were reinforced by cultural expectations and judgments. So when girls did not fit this mold, they were being judged by their families, by their neighbors, and even healthcare providers. But again, there were flickers of resistance. Some of these young girls began to negotiate, for example, deciding what school their children would attend or setting boundaries. One of the themes were around dreams, those dreams that were lost, those that were delayed, or those passed on. So many of these girls spoke of lost aspirations. Some had really wanted to become teachers, nurses, or doctors. And others had imagined simple joys like traveling, reading, or creating a home for their own. But those dreams ended early, and even few had vocational desires, for example, to learn stitching or earn a small incomes. But these dreams were often dismissed. But what I found incredibly powerful was how these girls started creating new goals through motherhood. They began dreaming not for themselves now, but for their children about their future and about their education. And these were the active intentions. So despite all these their own dreams had lost, they were planting seeds for the future, for the better future, not for themselves, but for the next generation. And that brings me to the final theme, one that is threaded through the others, which is resilience. So, in the face of poverty, exhaustion, emotional isolation, these young girls found ways to keep going. Their resilience in adversity showed up both in big and small ways. So, some of them shared how a hug from their child gave them strength to get through the day, and others talked about the prayers that really helped them to keep going. And basically, their coping mechanisms were deeply personal. For some, it was just listening to the music. For others, it was they were finding strength in conversations with the young mothers. So these young girls did not just reflect it, they also had a clear recommendations for change. They asked for women's centers in their village, for support groups where they could share without being judged. They also wanted health workers who explained things clearly and treated them with respect. So above all, they wanted to be heard, basically. So overall, the findings of my research highlighted the real need for adolescent-friendly maternal health policies. They highlighted the need for peer support groups within rural communities and culturally sensitive reproductive health education, and also the integration of young mothers into existing maternal health services, not just physically, but emotionally and respectfully. These are the references. So at the end, I greatly acknowledge the generous support of the University of Alberta, the Killam Scholarship, Delta Kappa Gamma, Universities Canada, Wickery, and Davert Mental Health for funding my research and my PhD studies. Thank you.
Oh, we can't hear you, Lindsay.
I'm just talking to myself in here. I just want to say thanks so much, Amber. That was excellent. And we're going to hand it over to Colleen now to close. Oh, to maybe lead the discussion.
If there's any questions, we have time for a few quick ones, for sure. I'm so impressed with the international breadth of what's going on and how U of A Faculty of Nursing is moving the science out to the world right now, through the International Nursing Office. Does anybody have any questions or comments? I think it's really tough when we're short on time like this. These are recorded, and Salima, I absolutely need to come back to you to talk to you about all this incredible work, as your video should be shown far and wide. That's just amazing. Oh, Joanne raised her hand. Go ahead, Joanne.
If we need to finish at 1 o'clock, that's fine. I can send my question. It's actually to Amber, and it's around one of the first slides that you showed, that indicated there were 21 million adolescent pregnancies, I think, in low and middle income countries, and then 12 million that resulted in live births. So I'm curious if that really meant that 9 million pregnancies didn't end in a live birth. You don't have to answer it right now. I can email you, but it just was a question that came up as I looked at your slides. But so glad to see all of you at this stage. It's exciting. Yeah.
The other thing that really struck me are the numbers are just overwhelming. Absolutely, when you talk in the millions as far as people who have HIV and all of the numbers that you all presented, it's just overwhelming to me. So thank you so much, because together these presentations really reflect the spirit of International Week, and they showcase global perspectives and the diverse voices, and it reinforces our shared commitment to equity, cultural responsive care, and social justice. And I think one of the big lessons that we're learning from our international researchers is, trauma-informed care, or diverse informed care, because it's something that I think in our schools of nursing in North America, we aren't paying enough attention to where the people are from in our Canadian setting, and what is the cultural what are the cultural implications of that for us? And it's a big lesson to learn. And it means treating everyone for the person that's sitting in front of you rather than, you know, our risk calculators or our big population-based data. So thank you for being here. And we really look forward to seeing everybody on our next Alberta-wide nursing rounds. And it's going to be on my favorite topic, women's heart health, on Thursday, February 19th at noon. And again, once again, thank you so much to everyone who participated today. That was just amazing.
Thank you so much, Colleen. Thank you for the opportunity to present our projects and my students' projects as well, and celebrate. And it's a nice way to celebrate the International Week. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Just perfect. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.